today we will start with what PeopleSoft is. We'll look at the
Mhm.
basics,
Okay.
right? So, yeah. So, as we discussed in the demo session, PeopleSoft is an ERP application. ERP stands
Yes.
for Enterprise Resource Planning Product. So, basically, what
Mhm.
it does is it takes care of all the back office work. It automates that. It
Mhm.
streamlines that. It would streamline your business processes. So, that is what an ERP
Mhm.
software is. And PeopleSoft is a suite of ERP software applications, and it
Mhm.
is now managed by Oracle. Earlier, PeopleSoft was a different company, but it was acquired by Oracle. And PeopleSoft has different products. So, say every organization will have
From how long
different
Oracle
needs for.
Oracle acquired one?
So I think around 20 years. So it's been a long
Oh,
time, and it is
okay.
a
Okay. Okay.
long-standing product in the market.
Mhm. Okay.
So and it has, like, every organization will have different needs. So say they will have different teams. They have
Mhm.
a recruitment team. They have their team handling the terminations. They have a team which handles the HR work. They have team. They have travel desk. Any your claims and expenses. All these different
Mhm.
teams work in an organization.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
for um, like for covering all these business processes, there are different products which are provided by PeopleSoft. So
Mhm.
HR related processes are grouped under HCM. So there is a product,
Mhm.
PeopleSoft HCM, which targets the work which is done by the HR teams, like HR
Mhm.
related work. So your recruitment
Yeah.
will come in it,
HCM
your
stands
core
for.
HR, human
Okay.
capital management. It
Okay.
stands for human capital management.
Okay.
For targeting the finance related work and supply chain related work, you have
Mhm.
PeopleSoft FSCM.
Mhm.
So FSCM stands for financial supply chain management,
Mhm.
and what it does is it takes care of your general ledger, your accounts payable, receivable, billing, supplier management, all those kind
Mhm.
of things. So all your finance teams in the organization, they would use a product which would be basically any ERP FSCM product of that company.
Mhm.
So PeopleSoft
Okay.
has a product for FSCM as well. For customer relationship management, we have PeopleSoft CRM. Um,
Mhm.
there is one product specially for the universities for handling the student financials, the student admission, the fees, and all,
Mhm.
and that is called
Mhm.
Campus Solutions. So that is
Okay.
dedicated to um, the campus related work.
Mhm.
That is Campus Solutions. Then Enterprise Performance Management (EPM). It's a data warehouse tool application, and it
Mhm.
basically will tell you how your organization is performing based on the historical data. So it acts as a data warehouse. It gathers the data from different systems, and it will
Okay.
forecast. It will give you the forecast. It will give you the analysis how your organization is performing. So that is enterprise
Mhm.
performance management. However,
Okay.
this is not very much updated. People have started going to Oracle Cloud. So there is a cloud offering for EPM as well. So it is not
Mhm.
very widely used product of PeopleSoft. Mostly you will
Okay.
find HCM and FSCM, which are widely used by the organizations. And if
Mhm.
it is a university, it might be using CS as well. And
Mhm.
CRM is also not that widely used. But HCM, FSCM, third is CS, then would come your CRM, and then EPM. That's how you
Mhm.
will most probably encounter with HCM and FSCM applications. And if your
Mhm.
client is in university, you might encounter CS, Campus Solutions.
Okay.
So that is about the different products that PeopleSoft has. Um
Mhm.
we will talk about the architecture. Like,
Mhm.
before that, I would like to ask you, like, are you aware of different protocols? What is a protocol? What is a web server, application server?
Protocols is, I
Or
mean, HTTP and HTTPS.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere I have heard about WebSphere.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
WebLogic
So
also,
let's
WebLogic also I heard somewhere.
right. So let's start with what a protocol is.
Mhm,
So in a client server architecture, anyway, this is the client and say this is the server. So
mhm,
server is the one which serves the request. So which hosts some kind of a service which client can call on demand. So say if it is a web server, it advertises its website basically. So anyone who wants to access a website, let's go back to the diagram, that would be easier. So say if someone wants to access a website, there is something sitting on a server which is always listening to the requests, right? So whenever a client requests something, the server has to provide its
server in the
services.
sense,
Uh,
when you are
yeah, so
calling a
server,
server, it is web server or app server, some
I'm
database.
talking about I'm talking about a generic term, server, what a server is.
Mhm,
So server is
mhm,
anything that provides services, and client is someone who would consume those services. So in this
mhm,
case, for example, web server will
mhm,
host a website which
mhm,
is being listened for requests on an HTTP port. So
mhm,
that that port on that server is always open to listen to HTTP requests, any incoming HTTP requests. Clients are the one who would send the request on demand. So whenever, say you want to access facebook.com, it's
mhm,
like whenever you put facebook.com, that website should be available, right? It's not that you would request now and it should be returned after 2 hours or 3 hours. So it should be
mhm,
like client can request on demand and the server has to provide that service immediately. And that
mhm,
communication happens through a protocol. So in a protocol, you would send a request and you would get a response. In this case,
mhm,
for example, browser is a software which is capable of sending HTTP requests. So browser is
mhm,
the client because it sends the request, and web server is the server because it receives the request and it provides the response. So whenever browser sends an HTTP request, web server's duty is to listen for that HTTP request, capture it, process it, and then return a response. So
mhm,
browser in this case is the client. It sends an HTTP request to the web server. Web server is supposed to give a response back to the browser in HTTP format. So protocol is basically the set of rules, set of how the data should be structured, how the response and request and responses should be structured. Those rules are protocols. So over the web, whatever is transferred, it is transferred majorly in HTTP protocol. So browser would send an HTTP request to the web server. Web server will respond with an HTTP response back to the browser. So in this
okay.
case, it is browser is the client, web server is the server, right? Now
Mhm,
take example of web server and application server. Here we have labeled them both as servers. But if
mhm,
web server is sending the request to application server, here the web server is a client now. And who is the server? Application server is the server. And the
mhm,
protocol that they use is called Jolt. The message
mhm,
that web server sends is it in this format. It sends a Jolt request. And what is the duty of application server? It has to always listen, like, it should be one port should be open where it listens for such requests. And web server will then send the request. App server is supposed to give back the response to the web server, right? So in if we take these two boxes, web server is the client, app server is the server. Now here
server.
taking example of app server and database. Now database
Mhm,
has what? It has the data and it can provide you the data. That is the service it can provide, and that service can be invoked or that service can be consumed using SQL. SQL is the protocol. So,
mhm,
So what app server does is it connects to the database using TNS entry of the database, and it forms a SQL connection. It sends the request, and database, being the server, will respond to that request with the data that it stores. So if we take example of these two boxes, who is the client here?
App server.
Correct. So app server would act as the client, which would send the SQL request. Database will respond to that request by sending the data back to the app server. The next component is the batch server. So batch server would again act as the client for the database. It would get the data from the database. Now, so in PeopleSoft, you have first is the web application, which would be accessed by the end users. So PeopleSoft is a complete product and it has different components inside it. And one of the components is the web application, which is accessed by the end users. And we generally call it as PIA. So at work, you would um, see people saying, hey, PIA is down. When they say PIA is down, your web application is not accessible. That is what they mean. So PIA also stands for PeopleSoft Internet Architecture, right? So this is the first component in PeopleSoft. Second is People Tools. So People Tools generally is used to create these domains. Like you have web server domain, you have application server domain, you have batch server domains. So whatever we saw in this diagram, these are basically domains, and these are created with the help of something called People Tools. So PeopleSoft
Okay.
delivers the executables, PeopleSoft delivers the binaries using which you can set up the domains. Like you don't have to do it from scratch. It is a menu-based thing where you just choose the options, you edit some configuration file, and your domains are ready. And in People Tools, this is the first purpose of People Tools. The second is it comes with data migration as well as project migration tools like say application designer. So this is something used by the developers to create pages, components, menus. There are different objects in PeopleSoft. Those can be developed using application designer. Then you have data mover, which is basically used for data migration from one database to another. So we will go more in detail of what all things are there in People Tools. When we install People Tools, we'll see what all files are there, what all executables are there. But the primary purpose is to maintain the domains, as well as you have different tools used for data migration and development and all those things. So that is People Tools. All right. And the third item would be the third party products. So say uh, PeopleSoft is an ERP. Now
Yes.
you would uh, wanted to do a lot of stuff. And earlier they used to use COBOL a lot in their processes. Now they've brought it down. There are, I think, in finance there are just a couple of COBOLs which are run majorly by the organizations. But there are some programs which use third-party products like COBOL, which is uh, Visual COBOL in today's time. Earlier, it was a different product. Now, you usually use Visual COBOL. Um, then you would, there are, depending on the organization's, um, requirements, you would integrate it with something else as well. You might integrate Java applications with PeopleSoft. And so this is the third point. Now, what end users would interact on a daily basis is the web application, and it is called PIA, PeopleSoft Internet Architecture, or I think it PeopleSoft Pure Internet Architecture. That is what they call it. So we will talk about PIA, how a transaction is done in the web application, how like what all stages, what all servers it hits during this online transaction. So let's start discussing that. So the end user will interact with that web application using a browser. So browser as in your Chrome, Edge, these kind of browsers, modern browsers. IE8
Yeah.
and all, they are not supported. Uh, the modern browsers, they're supported for PeopleSoft. So that is how the end user will access the PeopleSoft application. Now, when a user carries out any activity on the application, say he clicks a button or he clicks on a lookup, he clicks on a drop down, that request will go to the web server in form of an HTTP request. So
Yes.
we'll see this practically when I am yet to set up the PeopleSoft application. Once I set it up, I'll show in the browser what requests are sent, how they are sent, what all details are sent to the web server. For now, you just understand that the requests are sent with this protocol HTTP. If you have installed SSL on your web server, that is to secure your communication, this protocol will change to HTTPS. So we will also talk about how to implement SSL um, in future lessons. But this could be HTTP or HTTPS depending on the configuration of your web server.
Okay.
Now, as soon as the web server receives your request, it does not know what to do with it. So basically, it is not aware of any business process, any business logic. So what it does is it is just a set of servlets which would send the information received from the browser to the application server. Now, application server is the main brain of your PeopleSoft application. So the purpose of web server is just to act as a repository, just to serve the HTML back to the browser. So as soon as web server receives the HTTP request, it would forward that to application server using Jolt. So the request is received by the application server, and here uh, on the application server, what happens is this is the main brain of your application. So it knows what to do with the request. So as soon as it receives the request parameters, it checks, okay, this is the page the user wants to access. This is what he has selected, say business unit or department account. These are the parameters that he has got. What it will do based on those values, it will form the SQL. It will fetch the code from the database. It will execute the code wherever necessary. It will get the data from the database, and after getting all the information from the database, it will form the actual HTML. It will form the actual component, and it will send it back to the web server, and web server is going to send it back to the browser, and that's how the user will get the response.
Okay.
So any question till now?
No. What is the Jolt?
Yeah,
Jolt instance?
so yeah, so Jolt is okay. Now let's get back to the notepad. So when we talk about application server, it is
Mm-hmm.
based on something called Oracle Tuxedo. So what Oracle Tuxedo is, it is an application server and transaction monitor system,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it, so for example, your ATM. So
Mm-hmm.
your when you press some button on the ATM, it will uh, go to the bank. It will, see if your details are correct and then give the response back. Now, say if something goes wrong in between, you would expect that the whole transaction would be rolled back, correct? Your
Yes.
what do you say? Your money is not deducted, or it should show you proper message on the screen, something like that. So
Yes.
Oracle Tuxedo is for that. What it does is it will track the whole transaction, and if something goes wrong in the middle, it will roll back everything. So that's the purpose of Oracle Tuxedo. And PeopleSoft application servers are built on this Oracle Tuxedo software. So using Oracle Tuxedo, you would create application server domains. And as I said that you don't have to do it from scratch, we have people tools which would support this. So it is just a menu based thing. You choose options, you choose the configuration, and that's it. Your application server is like configured, and it is ready to be up. Now, this Oracle Tuxedo is not a very new thing. It's a very old and robust technology. And earlier, uh, it has interfaces. So it's not that everything in the world will be based on Java, or everything in the world will be based on COBOL or Fortran or something like that. So it started long back, and it had interfaces for Corba, for COBOL, for other languages as well. Now, as the internet developed, Java language was introduced, and applications were being written in Java. So Oracle Tuxedo needed to listen to Java requests as well. It had to provide an API for Java language as well, right? So
Yes.
that is where Jolt comes in. So Jolt actually is an API to understand the requests sent from a Java application, Java client. So if you go back to the diagram, this web server, the majorly used web servers are your WebSphere, IBM WebSphere, and Oracle WebLogic. And these are Java based web servers. So they're basically, if we talk about web servers, they're basically J2EE containers. They are Java applications for enterprise, J2EE containers, which has, you know, servlets, your normal Java files, you have, all these things. That is how a web server is made. Now, being uh, like WebLogic being a Java application, it needs, it can only talk in Java. It can only talk uh, to an interface which supports Java. So, application server Tuxedo has an
Hello. Hello. No, you are not audible. Hello. Hello.
hello. Am I audible?
Yes, yes. Now we able to.
Oh, yeah, sorry. My Wi-Fi went down for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, okay, my screen is also visible.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, and let me know if I'm going too fast or you're not able to understand something. You can stop me, and I will go into detail in that subject. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay.
So, so what? So the takeaway from this is web servers are basically Java running something on Java, and Oracle
Mm-hmm.
Tuxedo needs to understand the request sent through a Java application, Java client. That's where Jolt comes in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Jolt is just an API on Oracle Tuxedo, which would understand. It is a Java API on Tuxedo, which would understand the request sent by
Mhm.
the Java application, right?
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
does this make it clear, or you have any questions here?
In the sense, web server, in the sense, we need to install WebLogic. Whereas
Yes.
app
So
server, we
now
need to
let
install
me
Tuxedo.
correct. So let me clarify this thing. So WebLogic, okay, WebLogic. I'll give you more examples so that you can relate. WebSphere,
Mm-hmm.
you can say Apache HTTP server,
Mm-hmm.
say Tomcat. These are all very widely used web servers. So what are these? These are the products which would help you host your website. These are not
Mm-hmm.
the actual websites, right? These are the
Okay.
products which would contain your websites, which are containers for your website. And what you would do, you would create a website, say uh, my website, right? And you would create, say, a war file, web archive file, and you would place that web archive file, say, in WebLogic's root folder or Tomcat's root folder. It will start serving your website. So these
Mm-hmm.
are the products which will help you host a website. These are not the actual websites. When we say WebLogic, WebLogic is not related to PeopleSoft at all, or WebSphere is not
Mm-hmm.
related to PeopleSoft at all. On WebLogic, you can host 1,000 different kinds of Java applications, right? So PeopleSoft is just one application which works with these two softwares. Majorly, these are the supported web server softwares. So similarly, in PeopleSoft, you would have something called portal.war. Now we talked about PIA, right? The this architecture where user would send something from the browser. It would go to the web server, application server database. So on the web server, there is a website which is handling that. So which is known as portal.war,
Yes.
right? All your integrations, for example, they are handled by psigw.war. So these website files, web archive files, they are present in your WebLogic domain, and that WebLogic domain is built on top of WebLogic software.
Okay.
Similarly, you have Oracle Tuxedo.
Mm-hmm.
You can write your own C programs. You can write your own COBOL programs. You can write your own Java programs on Tuxedo and
Mm-hmm.
display them, advertise them as services. And you can have different Java clients consume those services. So Tuxedo is basically a software which supports all these technologies. You can have a you can advertise your services using Jolt API. Some Java application, which is in this case portal.war or psigw.war, it will consume those services by sending you requests on Jolt port. So that is what Tuxedo is. So for to give you an analogy, WebLogic is similar to Tuxedo. So WebLogic is the software product on which websites are hosted. Similarly, Tuxedo is the product where you would have app server domains, or
Okay.
for that matter, batch server domains. Both of these are created on top of Tuxedo using Tuxedo,
Yes. Okay.
right? So in
Okay.
this architecture, this would sit on WebLogic, like it would be supported by WebLogic. These two components, application server and batch server, these would be using Oracle Tuxedo.
Yes.
Is it clear now?
Yes. Clear. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we are concerned with as PS admin are this. We should know what is there in PeopleSoft website, how to configure a domain, what all are the configuration files. Same
Mm-hmm.
with here. We don't have to know what Tuxedo is, what are the configuration file for Tuxedo. We have to know what app server domains are, how to configure them, what are the configuration files, main configuration files, where to look for logs, all those things we are concerned about, right? Then coming
Yes.
to the database, so this should be an RDBMS, and the widely used are Oracle and you have MySQL, and then you have DB2, which is an IBM product. So mostly in organizations, you would find Oracle. Uh, Oracle is used with PeopleSoft. So your database is either of these. So it is most probably Oracle. It could be MySQL or DB2, right? And then we have already talked about batch servers. Now in this diagram, you would see some two components are in light blue color, other are in dark blue color. So the dark blue color
Yes.
ones, they are in scope of a PS admin. So browser, it is just a client, right, to access your website.
Yes.
You just have
Yes.
to follow the certification metrics and inform the users that these browsers are supported. But web servers, app server, batch servers, you have to make them, you have to configure them, you have to make sure it is up, it is properly configured, able to serve your application. And database, generally there is a separate database team, but you might have to support that team by you doing very basic activities. Say there is some performance issue, they ask you for a session ID of a long running process, you should be in a position to provide that information. So you need basic information about the database as well. And in some organizations, PeopleSoft, like they call it PeopleSoft DBA. So it's PeopleSoft admin plus some activities on database related to PeopleSoft. So they would generally take care of the refreshes and all, which is like which falls under PeopleSoft DBA's umbrella, not under PeopleSoft admin. So admins generally they look after the web server, app server, batch server, and other components we would discuss maybe tomorrow. So there are not just three components. There is an extended architecture where you have several other components that will be managed by a PeopleSoft admin. So any questions on this so far?
No, 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 as of now, no.
Okay. Let's
So
go
as
to
a
the next
PeopleSoft, we
slide.
need to, as a PeopleSoft admin,
Mhm.
we have to involve web server, app server, and this is batch server, right?
Batch server when we talk about PIA, but there are other components like COBOL that you have to install,
So
Elasticsearch,
no
Kibana.
need to bother about database, right?
Yeah, not so much. Sometimes they might ask you to do the refreshes and all, but usually they would have a standard script that you have to execute. So they would copy the data from production, place it somewhere, and then you have to restore it on your non-prod database. So those things are generally very standardized. It does not need specialized DBA knowledge. You would not be doing very much of performance tuning or looking at the sequels, looking at the processes. No, not that.
Mhm. Okay.
So let's talk about the responsibilities of PeopleSoft admin. So the primary responsibility of a PeopleSoft admin is to set up a PeopleSoft application, which means you would install and configure all the components. So some examples are web app batch servers, but there are other components which you have to install and configure. That is a primary responsibility. Second is environment management. Like say you have a non-prod refresh. So you might not refresh the database, but you have to carry out some activities pre-refresh and post-refresh. So pre-refresh, you have to take some data backup, which you want to retain. Then when the refresh is done, you would reapply that data, like you will remigrate that data to the non-prod database to restore it as it was earlier.
Okay.
So those kind of activities you would take part in. You would apply the patches, you would do the migrations as in the code migration, like from dev environment to test environment, test to UAT to prod, something like that. So PeopleSoft admin generally takes care of that as well. And then weekend maintenances, so bouncing of the servers, clearing cache of the servers, um, migrations again come, like if it is a prod migration, it would happen on a weekend. So those kind of activities, the patching activities, those kind of activities will be part of your weekend maintenance. And there is a specific protocol that is followed. For example, you would first inform the stakeholders, you would bring the services down, what all you have to bring down. You would do your activity, you would clear the cache of the domains, you would bring it up, communicate again. So those kind of things are to be done by PeopleSoft admin, and I'll cover that in our sessions. Next is optimize web app batch servers for good performance. So how many domains you should create, how they will be load balanced, how much load an app server can take, how much memory to allot, all those things fall under PeopleSoft admin's responsibilities. So you have to take those decisions as well. You have to tweak the parameters for these components. Next is create and manage user accounts roles. So security basically. So the peoples of security. So generally in an organization, you would have an ITSM tool, a service management tool, like say ServiceNow or BMC Remedy. So you would get these kind of requests through these kind of tools, and you would action on those tickets. So like create a new role, assign a permission list, all those things. So we'll talk about peoples of security as well. Then monitor and review security logs, audits to detect and respond to security issues. We'll talk about different logs, what to look for in those logs. So app server logs, web server logs, your audit tables in database. So all those things a PeopleSoft admin will look at. So say someone asks you how many users were logged in during this to this time, right? So give me that data. So you should know from where to get that data. Next is monitor system health. So you have to make sure the application is up and running according to the SLAs decided by your client. So decided by like they have the uptime SLA. Depending on that, you have to you would monitor the system health. If something goes down, you would troubleshoot. You would bring the service back up. All those things. And track and respond to system alerts. So you say if CPU is high on some server or storage is occupied, you don't have free space on some server. So all those things you have to take care. And for this, you would need basic Windows and Linux knowledge. So have you worked on Linux or Windows servers earlier?
No, no, Mohan.
Okay.
Some
So
basic, some basic commands I know in Linux.
okay. So basic
We
are
call
enough.
something.
You would need around. I will give you a list of 20, 30 commands. You just go through
Okay.
those, and you should be good to perform
Okay.
the basic activities. Then
Okay. Okay.
diagnose and resolve issues related to applications. So any issues if you find with respect to the domains, you have to troubleshoot those. Then regularly test backup processes to ensure this comes under backup plans. So you would not risk your data, right? So say you
Yes.
have your on your server, you have all the domains, the configuration files and all. You would regularly back them up, say weekly backup or daily backup. So those kind of backups are taken, and periodically you would test that backup plan. So say you have written in the plan that you would restore this file. So you have to actually go and perform that restoration with the help of backup team. So generally organizations have a different backup team. So you have to coordinate with those people, and you have to run through those exercises. So that is
No, no.
also
When we call about backup, so I heard about in database that is DBA task, right? Backups.
I'm talking about the file backups as well, not just the DB backup. So for example, I'll for example you have app server domain, right? You have
Yes.
web server domain. And
Yes.
in the app server, you have psapp.srv.cfg. This is an important configuration file which would contain your how much memory is allocated, how many processes, say, old processes are there. So your handlers are there, how many, your SMTP settings and all. So this information is something you would want to retain. And if some files are created, if some files are modified, there are some files as well maintained on these servers. So you have web server, you have file server. So generally on the file server you will have different kinds of programs, SQRs and COBOLs and all of that, you would want to make sure that these backups are taken regularly. So
Okay. Okay.
your Windows and Linux teams, they would take file backups. Those are majorly, weekly, daily, but daily backups, for example. So um, what? So you have backup
In
frequency, like
company, people, what we call as like PeopleSoft admin or PeopleSoft DBA.
okay. So there are two terms:
Mhm.
PeopleSoft admin, right? Then there is PeopleSoft DBA. Then
Okay.
there is PeopleSoft architect. Now they've come up with this term as well, PeopleSoft architect. Then there
Mhm.
is something called PeopleSoft upgrade specialist kind of a
Okay.
role. So
Mhm.
what happens is PeopleSoft admin is someone who would do the admin related tasks, all the tasks that are mentioned here in this slide. These are the basic, like daily tasks, not the basic
Mhm.
ones. You would deal with um, the application a lot. So
Mhm.
you would work very closely with the application. That is PeopleSoft admin. So
Okay.
PeopleSoft DBA is an admin which who has some knowledge on database activities as well, like
Mhm.
refreshes, like basic
O-
activities. That is PeopleSoft DBA. Then
Okay.
PeopleSoft architect is someone who would design the whole application, like say depending on the requirements, high availability requirements, your uptime requirements, your criticality of the application. Based on these parameters, he would decide how many load balancers are required, what all DNS is, uh, like what should be the style of load balancing. Say, should it be round robin, or there are some uh, like you have round robin,
Okay.
then you have something called 5 tuple hash, 3 tuple hash, all those things. So
Okay.
these are out of scope for an uh, for a PeopleSoft admin. Generally, the
Okay.
architect takes care of it. He would decide how
Mhm.
many LBs, DNS, provisioning, then your number of web servers, your number of app servers, batch servers, right? He would also take into account the observability, like
Mhm.
Dynatrace and Grafana, all those things. So all these things are handled by PeopleSoft Architect. And there is
Okay.
someone called PeopleSoft Upgrade Specialist who would deal only with the upgrades. So you majorly have two types of upgrades: People Tools upgrade, and then you have application upgrade. So People Tools upgrade is a little bit smaller thing which can be done on regular basis. So this is
Mhm.
something which is released more frequently. Application upgrades, these are basically very old applications running on older versions. They are to be brought to the latest version. That is application upgrade. And then you have PUM to apply the images. But PeopleSoft admin can also take care of these things. So People Tools upgrade will involve your PeopleSoft admins as well. You're applying PUM images is now a very common task for a PeopleSoft admin. So
Okay.
these two roles are very coinciding. So
Mhm.
you might do these activities as well. You would participate in these activities as well. So you should have knowledge on at least People Tools upgrade and PUM images, how to apply PUM images, because this will be a frequent activity for you. PUM images at least. People
Okay.
Tools upgrade maybe yearly or 2 yearly once. PUM images have every 3-4 months. I think every 4 months it releases a new image. So based on your organization's need, they would ask you to extract a bug fix and apply it on some environment. So that is a very
Mhm.
common activity. So you would do this more commonly, images. Then the next common thing is People Tools upgrade, which happens like uh, 18 months, 24 months, once in 24,
Mhm.
18 months. And then application upgrade,
Mhm.
which is like a one-time activity for any organization who is running PeopleSoft application on a old version. So right
Okay.
now, PeopleSoft application is on 9.2 version. So when you say PeopleSoft, it is PeopleSoft 9.2. Earlier, there were 9.1 and 9.0 applications as well. When I started my career, PeopleSoft was on 9.0, and I think 9.1 was also released. And then after I completed like 3-4 years, 9.2 was released. So now the latest version is 9.2, and they are not going to go to any more version than this. Like there will be no 9.3 after this. So 9.2 is the last version. How they manage now is they manage it through PUM images. So they would regularly release the bug fixes in images. So that image has to be applied on your environment to keep it latest. That is how the upgrade is done now. So you sometimes call PUM image, you would call it PUM upgrade as well. So PUM upgrade means you would apply the whole image to your environment. So when you ask someone on which application version he is, he would say PeopleSoft 9.2 image 47. That is how they
Okay.
call it. So for example, for one of my clients, it is PeopleSoft 9.2 image 38. So he's on an older image, but that is fine as well, unless it is impacting your critical functionality. Organizations do not usually touch the application. If some bug, like they identify some issue with the process, they would extract that bug fix from the latest image and apply it on this, but the image will stay on 38. We'll discuss more on this. Let's not
Okay. Yeah.
go into deep. So basically, what I want to say is PeopleSoft 9.2 is the current version. It is
Mm-hmm.
the latest version. The fixes are released in form of images,
Mm-hmm.
like image 47, 48, 49, something like that. People
Mm-hmm.
like your clients might be on an older image. That does not mean that they have not applied any fixes from the latest environment. They might have applied, but only a few fixes, which are
Mm-hmm.
impacting their functionality, right? If you
Yeah.
go from 9.0 to 9.2 or 9.1 to 9.2, that is called application upgrade, right? If you go from image 38 to 39, image 38 to 42, something like that, that is called
Yes.
PAM upgrade. Now,
Um,
we said that we have people tools as well for creating your domains, web application, all of that. So right now, the latest people tools is 8.61, right? And some of my clients are on 8.58, 8.60, right? And this people tools usually impacts, it usually does not impact the business functionality. It is more for the look and feel, any delivered uh, debug functionality, utility functionalities, all those kind of things. So
mhm,
this is uh, this does not change your business processes. It just takes care of the look and feel and other stuff of the application,
mhm,
right? So people tools. So when you ask someone what is your PeopleSoft version, they would say we have PeopleSoft 9.2 on image 47 with people tools 8.61, or say image 47 with people tools 8.60, right? And this is released around every 18 months. So once you get this new people tools version, they would test it on dev environment, then test environment, then UAT, then prod, something like that. And when you upgrade this version, say from 8.60 to 8.61, that is called people tools upgrade, right?
mhm.
So you have two
Yeah.
components. One is your application and one is your people tools. So your application version is 9. It can be either 9.0, 9.1, 9.2. People tools, it is majorly you would find clients on 8.60, which is the second latest version. 8.61 is already released. People have started applying 8.61 as well. My current client is still on 8.60. So if you upgrade from one version to another on People Tools, it is People Tools upgrade. If you upgrade from 9.0 to 9.2, 9.1 to 9.2, that is application upgrade. When you upgrade this number from 38 to 42, 43, 45, that is called PUM upgrade. Any questions
Okay.
on this?
No, no more. Not now. When we are installing, and that time maybe
Yeah,
I will get.
sure, sure. And if you ask me what role I play the PeopleSoft architect role now. So I'm handling one project where we're migrating the on-prem application to cloud. So for that, we have to design all these things. I've worked as a PeopleSoft admin mostly for about 10 years now. And I've been working as an admin as well. I do take care of people tools upgrade and all. But in this project, I'm doing this work. Okay, let's move back to our responsibilities. I'll try to close it as soon as possible. Maybe I'll take 5-10 minutes more, and then we will end for today. Yep.
Okay.
So next is regularly test backup processes, and these are just the basic activities. I don't want to miss on any activities. I don't want to miss on discussing anything that you are not aware of. So say at your work, people say, "Hey, look at the backup restoration plan and tell me if it is correct or not." You should be in a position to, it should not it should not sound very alien to you, right? So you should be aware
Yes.
of these. We definitely will not go into much detail on every activity, but I want you to be aware of all these things, all the terms.
Okay. Okay.
Then you have disaster recovery plans. So basically, we talked about this high availability and these things, right? So what happens is every client will have uh, an application which is on his primary site, say a primary site. If it is an Indian client, say it is in Hyderabad, and then there is a secondary site, or they call it the DR site. DR means disaster recovery,
Okay.
which is in say
Some other
somewhere
location.
in yeah,
Other
Mumbai
country or
somewhere,
other state,
right?
whatever it is.
Any location, right? So uh, what happens is the application is up on the primary site. Again, it depends on the configuration. There are different types of configurations. For example, there is active, or you say hot 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 configuration, where your site is up on, say you have site 1 and you have site 2, right? Both of these are PeopleSoft sites connecting to some database which are synced in the background. So hot means both the sites are up at the same time. One load balancer is taking care of distributing the requests. So the end user will hit the load balancer. Load balancer will distribute the requests between these two sites. That is hot. Both are up. When both are up, it is called hot. When one is up and one is down, like you want the site which is in Hyderabad to be up. If something happens to the site which is in Hyderabad, if something happens to the data center which is in Hyderabad, you would bring up the site which is in Mumbai. That configuration is hot cold. So at one time only one is up, the other one is down, right? Then you have something called hot warm. So both the sites are up, but you are users are connected to only Hyderabad site. So something goes wrong, the user is automatically redirected to site 2 without knowing, like without the user experiencing any downtime. That is hot warm. So these to perform these activities, you have a proper plan, disaster recovery plan. So say if something happens to Hyderabad site, what would happen? First thing is PS admin is going to get an alert, say for example. Then PS admin is going to do this activity, like check the connectivity to this server. Then PS admin is going to involve the network team, say to switch the DNS, or he is going to involve the Windows team to bring the secondary servers up. So something like that. So it has a series of steps that you would perform during a DR, right? And it's not very common for a site to go down. That is very unusual, correct? But
Yes.
you have to test it periodically. Say if something goes down and then uh, you come to know that Mumbai site is not functioning at all, what would you do? So you don't want to encounter that kind of a situation. So you have to run a DR plan every year or every 6 months, depending on the organization's requirement. So that
Okay.
is what is called DR exercise. So PeopleSoft
Okay.
admin has to participate in PeopleSoft DR exercise. Got it?
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
Like he will have some activities in that. Say you would bring up the domains on the secondary side, you would test the connectivity, do the sanity checks, all of that. So
Mhm.
you would also play a role there. Then you would apply the software updates, patches, fixes to applications that we've already discussed, people tools, image upgrade and all.
Mhm.
Then test patches
Yes.
in non-prod, that is also part of the patching. Then manage and apply customizations, configuration. So this migrations, your code migration, the development team will
Mhm.
customize some objects. They will ask you to migrate. So all those customizations will be applied by you. Oversee integrations with other systems. So PeopleSoft is an ERP. Now ERP, what uh, generally happens is ERP would act as a central database. It acts as a source of truth. So for example, if you have HCM application, PeopleSoft HCM, and if say no, if he was hired on say 5th of September, so and then you have your say resignation application, termination and resignation, which is say built on some other technology. So termination application, from where it will come to know that's when Sinu joined, it would come to know from the HCM application. So it would send a request to HCM saying that, hey, give me the joining date of this employee. So he would get the detail from here. So ERP is a central database which most probably acts as a single source of truth for any organization. So all the applications built around it will integrate with your ERP application using the integration technologies provided by PeopleSoft. We'll go into detail in those topics, but for now, just understand that many systems will connect to your ERP system, and you have to take care of those integrations as well. You have to monitor those integrations. So
Okay.
oversee integrations with other systems. Next point is use tools like Data Mover, Application Designer, which we have discussed are part of People tools for data import migration tasks. Then documentation is a very important part of your work. So any changes you do in the configuration, anything you have built newly, all those documentations have to be done by uh, the admin. Any SOPs, say some issue occurred, right? Say uh, there is one issue one, which has occurred on say 2nd of August. Now the same issue happened again on 4th of September. Now when issue first occurred, Sinu was on job. He was a smart guy. He troubleshooted it and he fixed it in 10 minutes, right?
Okay.
Issue
Yes.
one happened again on 4th September.
Mhm.
Now someone else is on job, Mohan, who is not very smart. He took 3 hours to debug that and fix that. Would your client like this?
No.
He will not like this kind of scenario, right? If
Yes.
issue is
Yes.
reoccurring, everybody in the team should know how to fix it, and he
Mhm.
should be able to refer to some document so that he can fix that issue immediately. So those
Mhm.
kind of procedures, the standard procedures are called SOPs, standard
Yes.
operating procedures. Those are
Okay.
basically Word documents, right, with the steps.
Mhm.
So if
Okay.
you encounter an issue, client asks you for an RCA. RCA stands for root cause analysis, right?
Mhm.
So generally what happens, issue happened, you fixed it, client would say, give me the RCA, root cause
Mhm.
analysis. What exactly happened, why it happened, and how it will not happen in future. So how it will not happen in future, and in case if it happens, what to follow, SOPs. So
Okay.
those documentation you have to do as part of your job.
Mhm. Okay.
right? Then next is generate and analyze reports and related to performance. So you might have to write some scripts, you might have to get some reports from the database. So
Mhm.
all those things will be part of your job. Say someone
Okay.
said, how many processes ran for more than 1 hour? Get me the report. So you should know the
Mhm.
table names. You should know how to write simple SQL statements, how to get the data. You should know what to Google. Like not everybody will be very competent in SQL, right? So you should know what to search, where to look for the information, um, to get the reports, get the information from your system. So that is also part of like your daily activities. Then provide technical support to end users. The end user is saying, "Hey, I'm not able to upload this document. What
Yes.
should I do?" So you will have to work on those kind of tickets to see, what has gone wrong. You might have to connect with the user. All those things are also your responsibility. Any question on this?
No more.
Show you what it is. It is PeopleSoft Architecture Fundamentals. So we discussed
Mhm.
about PeopleSoft Internet Architecture (PIE), right? And we discussed about these components: so browser, web server, application server, database, process scheduler server.
Mhm.
So what those are, you can read on these topics. What a database server is, application server. You would get more details on this. So
Okay.
whatever we have discussed, like I'm sure that we cannot cover the whole documentation that Oracle has provided, but I want you to go through the document on your own. If you find anything that you don't understand, I am happy to explain that to you. But I'll try my best to, introduce you to all the topics which would be helpful at your work, and you will not face any problem, right? So
Okay.
go through this document, go through architecture fundamentals, database server, application server, scheduler, web server, server configuration options,
Okay.
and implementation options. These 4 5 pages, you go through them. Uh, we'll discuss maybe tomorrow in the first 5 minutes if you have any questions,
Okay.
or we will move to the other topics.